Hello everybody, and welcome back to some more Midnight Dawn of Darkness. I'm Dat Boy, here as always, and today we're going to go over what background skills are and how to use them to properly prepare yourself for well, to strategically prepare yourself for battle. And remember, when you are creating your character, you get basically a choice at three of these skills, all of which have their own unique effects, and all of which can be used for their own benefit. In this video, we will be going from A to Z, basically, just top of the list down, and just talking about every single one, what their usages are, and how they can be used how they can be used from both a player and a game master perspective. With that, let's get into, first off, an explanation of background skills and what they basically get to do. So, background skills, as I said, you get to pick three of these at the start of the game. They are basically the skills that you will be mainly focusing on ranking up throughout your campaigns. This is because whereas background skills get set into a position where they can easily be upgraded from E to D to C to B, starting with F, which is what all skills technically do. So hey, guess what? All skills are background skills technically, but they start as F rank. You have to improve from F to E, get 1,000 of the usages of the skill, which in turn is a little bit rough. So getting there isn't as easy as you may like. Getting from F to E requires 1,000 usages. E to D is only 25, D to C is 50, C to B is 100, B to A is 200, A to S is 400, S to double S is 400 again, and SS to triple S is 800, with slowly ramping up percentage bonuses to what the skill can do for you based off of that. With that, the multiplier bonus that gets put in from your background skills is an additive bonus to your basic multipliers that you have. Therefore, if you have a times 1.2, have triple S in a skill, that times 1.2 actually becomes a times 1.5, and of course these multipliers go versus your SKL stat, whatever that may be. With that out of the way, we will now finally get into the actual video. So, first off, acrobatics. Acrobatics is used as basically one of the most common things for when you need to do something that requires balance or is a relatively dexterous task that isn't easily performed by your average person. And in turn, the background skill Acrobat further increases your chance at succeeding in this. And at DM's or at Game Master's discretion, you may basically rule that a person with Acrobat as a background skill has an easier time of, succeeding at skill checks than, say, their friends. Furthermore, people with the Acrobat skill check could also help guide people through acrobatic skill checks by basically, as long as they perform correctly and perform at a high enough level, it might in turn mean that somebody else gets a pass just because they did so well. Moving down to our first findable and craftable affecting skill, animal handling allows you to basically take care of animals and keep them under control while you are, doing anything that is rough or basically making friends with them, and a whole animal friendship mechanic is put in the game because of this. And of course, animal friendship allows you to gather more materials and lets you basically do better with your animals. Animal caretakers basically have access to easier caretaking of animals, certain animals that can't be caretaken just by your typical animal handler that just, hasn't got any experience in the trade. And furthermore, can improve all the way up to a point where they might even be able to take care of animals that are considered godly creatures, and furthermore gain materials off of said animals without the need of harvesting the animal for, feathers or scales or anything like that, just picking stuff up off the ground. Next on the list is Aquatics, which baseline aquatic skill affects your ability to understand how underwater areas work. And furthermore, it also gives you your swimming checks, which basically, if you're ever in water and need to make a swimming check, call for Aquatics. The background skill, Fisherman, allows you to, catch fish, which are commonly used in Arcana and Alchemy to make potions or, magical spells based off of the oils from the fish that you are catching and what each, fish is known for. Next up on the list is Arcana, the magic creation skill, basically. This skill is used for understanding magical effects and basically knowing what is going on, what runes are involved in the judgment magic that is set upon them. Arcanist goes far enough that they can create magical effects, and furthermore can even basically discern and figure out how to disable or counteract some magic effects as well, assuming the skill checks are high enough. Artistry lets you understand a lot of history about the artist that made whatever art piece you are looking at, or understand how something is made in general. Artist itself lets you pick up your own artistic trade and produce it to make money for your team. Artist is in a way one of the quickest and most easiest way to gain money out of all of the other background skills, just due to the fact of, as long as your art checks are good enough, you can end up selling art pieces that go for over 1,000 gold, which is quite a fair amount. Athletics is similar to acrobatics, except in a more physical, more strength-based check. So if you're pushing, pulling, running a mile, the whole typical being an athlete thing. And athlete, as well, works just like acrobat, where they're more likely to succeed than, say, your basic person doing an athletics check, or furthermore can also help guide and even coach those trying to make an athlete check throughout the game. Chemistry is one of the most unique skills in the game, and one of the ones that is, in my opinion, the most, second most important skill tree in the game. The issue with it is it is locked behind a really hard skill set. To be able to use chemistry to its fullest abilities and not just do tier 1 crafting, you need to be able to have access to the end magic skill, or know a way to get around it. We'll get to that whenever we get to engineering here in a moment. Alchemist lets you pick up a lot of items and basically craft them better than just a basic person doing chemistry. Likewise, I also forgot to mention, chemistry also lets you determine what things are made out of, basically. But Alchemist takes it a step further and develops the crafting trees not just for themselves, but also for everybody else in the game with what they can do. It is definitely one of the most intensive intensive skill trees to understand, because of, all the crafting that can go into it can go anywhere from your basic bombs to, nuclear weapons in the case of things going well enough if you play your game properly. Engineering, of course, is next on the list, and kind of works as the caveat skill that lets you, if you don't have access to some of the requirements, figure out a way around them. So, for instance, if you can roll a high enough engineering check, you can basically figure out how to set up a rune that would work in place of a different rune, or a rune string, or furthermore, just work a recipe that works similarly to an alchemist's bomb or something else. But, engineering is for those who are able to pick it out, and this is by far and away one of the skills where you work with your GM to basically play the skill right. An engineer kind of works similarly to how athlete and acrobat did, just with engineering. Firekeeping is all about the understanding of how fire works, how to keep it going, and what you need to do to basically get it started. It's a useful skill for survival techniques, but beyond this, its main use is actually in its background skill, Smith, which allows you access to blacksmithing and your own weapon creation, which Arcana also did, but it was for magic weapons. Smith lets you have access to your own physical weapons. And, well, late game is smithing with Arcana being basically figuring out how to make everybody the equivalent of boss weapons or overpowered weapons and just rolling your way through the game best you could. So, smithing is definitely a very important skill. Next up is general knowledge, which can take a stand-in for a whole slew of effects from animal handling, aquatics, artistry, chemistry, engineering, firekeeping, geology, history, nature, physics, and speechcraft and survival, but not any of their background skills. However, if you take merchant as its background skill, which is the background skill of general knowledge, you get the ability to figure out how to run your own business, basically. And general knowledge sort of lets you work with this, with haggling being one of the main things you do with general knowledge, and not speechcraft, by the way. But merchant does mainly run off of, well, upselling and knowing things prices and figuring out how you can properly buy or haggle or sell things that you own. And it works as a great way to gain money, similarly to how Artist does. Geology is next on our list, and basic geology lets you understand stonework and how things are formed from stone and the likes. It also gives you access to know what mineral something is, or just identify things that are rock-based, basically. Miner, on the other hand, lets you gather any material that is needed by either your smith or arcanist, because both use gemstones or more iron or steel-based materials, and lets you just gather it as necessary during your rests, with the caveat of you most likely will either be going off on your own or taking people with you, so they aren't going to be doing their rests, or you might have a chance to run into enemies down deep below while you're caving. So be careful with the skill, but of course, if you are able to pull it off, you can do some pretty extreme effects. For the next one, history is quite a unique skill. It firstly works around memory and also understanding of the history of a place, basically. As long as your character knows something, they should be able to recall it and pull it up. Or also, if they just happen to, know a lot about a place, they might be able to use a history check to pull up some information about something based off of, surrounding things or anything like that. Historian, on the other hand, gives you access to being able to read and, well, learn and decipher the entirety of the runic language, which is the main language that spells are written in MDOD. And I'm scrolling over all of them so that you all can take a look and read over them. They're relatively simple. The way that the whole reading and writing system of it works is basically if a two-letter... So, here, I will scroll through all of this, and then I will explain once I get down to the end, because I have something that down at the bottom actually makes sense. So, words in Runic are written based on the sounds they make. If it's raw consonant sounds, you include a Y before it. For instance, midnight, the first word of Midnight Dawn of Darkness, is wrote YM, ID, YN, IG, YH, YT, following the runic language chart that you saw above. And each rune is written one after the other, forming a quite elegant yet sharp language, which all of Magic is written in. And this, by the way, is considered one rune for all of your rune-based effects. So, another great example is Ifire, which, if for those people who want to be great and figure out what I said before I said it, now's your chance. Which is fire, which is the easiest spell to say in my opinion, is YFIRE, and follows each of that and is said as one rune, Ifire. Following up with that, we have nature, which is used for all forms of natural findings and whatever else you might need them, such as plant knowledge, or, can I eat this berry, to, hey, I wonder how that creature does things. Its background skill is actually 2 background skills rolled into one, and in my opinion, the most important background skill that you can have. You see, foraging is great. It lets you forage for things better and lets you find more items when searching for things in the wild. But cook is where it really sits. For you see, cooking lets you have access to food buffs, and food buffs are how you really win this game. For food buffs let you live far better than your basic character could. Food buffs can give a whole range of effect, from plus 10 health all the way up to multiplying your stats depending on how well the meal is. And furthermore, the better the cook that made the meal, the better the power of those stat buffs that you are getting from the cooking. Perception is next on the list, and basically is the most simple skill here. It lets you look at things and lets you detect where certain things are, maybe see a few hidden traps here and there, or whatever is necessary. Scout is the upgraded version of this, which basically lets you see much further and be more likely to notice things. A good scout is able to point out a lot of traps for their team, and also be able to basically lead the way in the dungeon, just due to the fact that, well, they see all the traps or see the enemies well before they have attacked. Next on the list is physics, which allows you to properly predict how physical things are going to occur. So say a rock is going to fall, you will be able to, under a good roll, figure out, well, where is that rock going to fall to, and is it going to slide, is it going to do this. It will also furthermore let you understand how certain events are going to occur in, say, well, destructive circumstances. Probability is next on the list of, well, it's the upgrade of physics, and basically gives you the chances behind certain things occurring, and furthermore lets you be able to hopefully predict all the way what is going to happen. Speechcraft is useful for a whole slew of different things, and is basically the roll up all of, well, are you kind, are you insulting, are you intimidating, are you deceptive, all into one skill. And its follow-up, Entertainer, lets you kind of use all of those rolled up effects into basically, well, being able to entertain and talk to the masses, doing whatever you need to through speechcraft and, well, any event that you may want to throw in on top of it, and lets you kind of just, well, be able to talk your way out of anything. Bards are definitely a great friend of this skill. Stealth is up next, with it basically being, well, how sneaky are you? And stealth allows you to do sleight of hand tricks, steal things, slide your way past guards, the whole 9 yards. Thief, furthermore, improves upon all of those and lets you get around easier, lets you find your way into into certain events, and just all around lets you lockpick and steal your way to victory, basically. Survival is the last of the skills that we are to cover, with it basically being, well, the skill of being able to survive in the wild. It furthermore also is called upon by a lot of checks made by enemies inflicting status ailments on you. So a good survivalist is able to handle a lot of the natural or even unnatural effects of poisons or curses or whatever is thrown at them from enemies on the battlefield. Hunter, furthermore, lets you be able to hunt animals with ease, and furthermore, even capture bugs, which can be used all the way back in Arcanist or Smith or even Alchemy. And furthermore, fishing to catch fish for all those skills. And with that, that is my whole list of background skills that I wanted to cover tonight. Use your background skills well and wisely, because, trust me, they will be important to your characters, as during rests, you get to use these skills to help prepare for the next time that you are fighting. And with that, thank you all for watching. I've been that boy, and I'll see you next time. See ya.